Let me quickly go back to Van Jones and tell you why this bothered you at Fort Hood while you were watching the president. I know everybody has already, talked about this, but I've been gone, and I haven't heard anybody really spell out why this bothered you. When he talked for 2 minutes, play the audio, please, of Van Jones. When he talked for 2 minutes prior to saying, hey, by the way, huge tragedy at Fort Hood today, he was talking about Indians, and this is the first audio piece that went off in my mind. I knew I had heard the words, these kinds of words, somewhere before, that the president was now saying, and it was spilling out into my living room. I'm hearing, not the president, I'm hearing this.
No more broken treaties. No more broken treaties. Give them the wealth. Give them the wealth. Give them the dignity. Give them the respect.
Okay. So I start thinking about Van Jones. Now, this is in the 3 minutes before the president even starts to address Fort Hood. And I start thinking about Van Jones, and then I remembered that I wanted to talk to you about something that we had missed, and I think everybody had missed, in New York in the 23rd. While everybody was talking about the New York 23rd, they didn't notice that there was a change in the law in New York, and it went, really, nobody even talked about it. Do you want prisoners to be able to go work for community organizations? Sure, that sounds like a good idea. Uh-huh. So now prisoners can leave the walls, and they can go work for community organizations, just pulling a couple of ideas out of AmeriCorps, maybe, something like that. And it made me think that we got off Van Jones too early, because we were working on a story about Van Jones speaking in San Quentin last March, where he told a group of inmates from the San Quentin Times, we need genius. We need entrepreneurial brilliance, people who can reimagine possibilities. We need you. The whole point of that speech was to give jobs to people in prison, to let them work, something that has just passed in New York, and nobody paid attention. Naturally, I think we all agree that it's only an extremist that think that we shouldn't be looking for tomorrow's entrepreneurs in prisons, not colleges or tech schools. No. Prisons. That's where the, quote, genius and entrepreneurial brilliance will come from. Guess who else focused directly on prison inmates for their recruiting efforts? Let me ask the question again. Van Jones, looking for new recruits, entrepreneurial brilliance. New York now voting to say, yes, if you're a prisoner, you can go to work for a community organization. Sounds awfully familiar. Sounds like the Van Jones plan. So we know Van Jones and the extreme left wants to recruit in prisons, but who else wants to recruit in prisons? Who looks at not just the entrepreneurial brilliance in prison, but who looks as prisons as their number one spot to recruit? Number one, Al-Qaeda. The number one place for Islamic radicalization in America is our prison system. Which brings me full circle back to the speech where Barack Obama meandered around before addressing the Islamic terrorist slaughter of our men and women in uniform on a military base right here in home in Texas. And then he told us not to jump to any conclusions. Fortunately, President Obama has never jumped to any conclusions before.
I don't know all the facts, but that the Cambridge police acted stupidly.
So now you can draw your own conclusions from all of this, but my point is something wasn't right, something isn't right. When we can trace policy back to a radical revolutionary communist, self-titled communist, Van Jones, and make the connections directly back to Barack Obama's agenda, maybe it was divine providence that this happened on the same day so we could actually see the connections. We can make these connections during a speech following, call it what you want to call it, a terrorist massacre. There's ample reason to be concerned. Trust your gut. Look, a lot of people will talk about Native American rights. It's important. Treaties were broken. But In the grand scheme of things and priorities, day of a national tragedy, yeah, I don't think I as a president would be doing that on that day, but you stay awake. You stay involved in the process. You are needed. You are not a sunshine patriot. If you just love the flag because, well, I just Old Glory, you're not going to be of any help. Your country needs you now more than ever before. You feel it like I do. This is not who we are. This is not the America our grandparents gave us. Check the records. You won't find a single shout-out in any address on a tragedy from any American president in history. You won't find any presidents advocating reparations for special interest groups, making the case for redistribution of wealth, or making political promises to people before he gets around to even mentioning the deaths of 13 Americans who volunteered to serve not AmeriCorps, not ACORN, but the ideas and the ideals of the founders of the United States of America.